Hi Karmas, happy Tuesday. In today's video, we're going to be doing a review of a new horror movie that just came out called Together, starring Dave Franco and Alison Brie. If you're new here, I usually do horror movie reviews, horror show reviews, and horror book reviews slash book to movie comparisons. But in today's video, we're just going to be diving right in and talking about a new movie that I watched just now, actually. Just a little PSA, this video is probably going to have a bunch of spoilers in it. And, okay. I'm not a professional horror movie review channel. I just do this for fun, so please don't take this so seriously because I feel like every time I post like a review video, some people get really mad because I'm not very good at explaining things. But this is just my experience and I want to talk about a movie that I just experienced, okay? So let's just dive in. It's about a couple that move from out the city into like the secluded area or whatever little town, and weird things start to happen and they physically start to merge. When I saw the trailers, I didn't really know anything aside that about the movie, so that kind of like really interested me, so I made my husband come and watch it with me. He didn't like it as much as I did, but I found it pretty exciting. The movie stars a real life couple, James Franco and Alison Brie. They're a real couple in real life, married. So I thought that was like really cool how they kind of like worked on this project together and came up with such cool rendition of the story. By rendition of the story, I've never really like seen a story like this before, so I guess it's not really a rendition, but the way that they bring the story to life, you know what I mean? So the movie starts with this weird scene about two dogs drinking from some kind of like well underground that straight up looks like it could be on Supernatural show, like the CW show with Sam and Dean. And then later they're merged together, like at the head, and it's really freaking weird. And then it cuts and the movie starts. So we see this struggling musician, quote unquote. He's trying to be a musician, but he's not a real musician yet, or whatever. Him and his partner decide to move, and they have this little party, like a going away party. She decides to embarrass herself for whatever reason and proposes to him. No ring, no nothing. It was super awkward. It's just a crowd of people in silence because he was kind of flabbergasted by her asking him to marry him, spend the rest of their life together. And yeah, he doesn't really say anything, and it's a really awkward scene. And this is kind of like, it kind of like sets the tone for their relationship, how she really wants to be together and she tries so hard, but he's kind of like non-responsive. But at the same time, they both are sort of like that. So the main actors, there's Tim, who is played by Dave Franco, and then Millie, I think her name is in the movie, who's played by Allison. So Tim is this musician guy. Allison, she's a teacher. They're moving together to a secluded town hours away from the city because she got a job as a teacher. She has a passion for teaching kids, whatever. She got a job. So they decide to move. Tim's whole thing is that he still wants to be a musician, so he decides that he'll be taking the train back every time. The reason why he takes the train is because he's a 35-year-old man that doesn't drive, because you don't need a license in the city or whatever. So he kind of like feels stuck with Millie in this way, and it's kind of like shown more throughout the movie about how he feels about the whole thing. There's also a whole backstory about his trauma. Apparently his parents or his dad died, but his mom couldn't cope, so she like lived with the dead body for weeks, I'm assuming. And then when he found her, there was like this terrible smell, so that when they moved into his new house, he recognized the smell when he moved with Millie to this new house. And then he found a huge rat king like in the ceiling. If you don't know what a rat king is, it's like when a bunch of mice get, or a bunch of rats get their tails stuck together and it becomes like one clump, which I thought was like a cool part to include in the movie because the movie's called Together, so it kind of like shows another version of a like connection, I guess, if you could put it like that. There's also another part of their relationship where they don't have sex, or they haven't had it in a while, so it kind of like creates this distance between them. I'm not sure how else to put it. Anyways, they decide to go on a hike. There's a huge storm. Tim is useless. He doesn't know directions. He pulls out his phone. He's like, north is that way. And Millie's like, what am I supposed to do with that? And he's like, I don't know. And then he falls through a freaking hole, and she's literally like holding him, trying to get him like out of the hole, and then they fall in together because he pulls her down. I think that's also supposed to kind of like resemble their relationship in a way that he kind of drags her down or whatever. Anyways, they fall into this hole. It's raining. They decide to break a fire in the cave because they decide that it would not be a good idea to start climbing out. From somewhere, this was one part of the movie that really bothered me. She has a blanket with her and they're in this cave. There's a huge storm. They can't get out. He starts a fire. they get thirsty. They decide to drink from this random well looking thing filled with black water that the dogs from the beginning of the movie were drinking from, that ended up connected, aka merged, aka together. Another thing about the cave is it's covered with like bells that have a sun symbol, kind of like the one from Tangled. That's what it kind of reminded me of. But essentially it's this like creepy chapel that we find out that like fell underground or something, that was ran by this weird cult that believed that Romans believed that a man and a woman used to be one person with 4 arms and 4 legs and 2 heads, but Zeus decided to separate them so that they wouldn't be so powerful, and now we're like damned to find our other half through life. But this is what the cult believed. So they go to sleep in the cave after drinking the water. So like the process of merging or whatever has already started. In the morning when they wake up, their legs are stuck. They're not like stuck. And I really like this movie because they clearly used like SFX makeup instead of just relying straight on CGI. But their skin is like glued together. So they pull it apart and each of them gets like a cut. The way Tim explains it is it's mildew. So morning comes, the storm is over, they're finally able to climb out, they laugh it off, they go home. Weird things start to happen. When Allie goes to the store or something like that, Tim kind of like becomes a magnet in the shower, and he starts like hitting the walls all around in which Allie is facing on the road, because I think he's like the first one to feel the effects of the water because he was the first one to drink it, I guess. At this point, Allie, I keep calling her Allie by her real name, but in the movie her name is Millie. At this point, Millie just thinks that Tim is crazy because he's clearly like having some kind of psychotic break about his parents, plus they just moved, plus whatever. So he actually decides to go see a psychiatrist who prescribes him Valium, which is a muscle relaxant. So whatever, right? Weird stuff starts to happen. They drink the water. The merging process slowly starts to happen. Tim needs to go to the city in order to have like a music rehearsal or whatever, because he's still trying to be a 35-year-old musician, man. He's standing at the train station. Millie drives off to go to work. He can't go because his body is like physically cannot be far apart from her or something like that. So he literally like stumbles through the woods and the roads and goes to the school that Millie works at. He attacks her in a passionate way, not like in a violent way. And they finally do it in the little boy's bathroom on the school property. They almost get caught. There's like a whole scene about that by this other teacher who we'll get back to. Remember the teacher? He's kind of creepy. I thought he was creepy from the very beginning and I literally called it. But he's also their neighbor. He works with Millie and he's their neighbor, right? So they almost get caught by him. They do their deed, whatever. And they're stuck. Like he is stuck inside of her and he won't come out. So she's like, I'm so sorry, and literally rips them apart. And poor guy just like, I don't know, I'm assuming they both were in pain. They get home, Millie is super mad because she almost lost her job. So they like fight, and then she goes to the neighbor. She like knocks on his door to talk about how she just got in a fight with her boy partner. I think that's what she calls him instead of like a boyfriend. Because the boyfriend is so immature. It's kind of funny because she proposed to him and they're like not engaged and he didn't really catch the hint, but whatever. So she goes to the neighbor to complain about her boy problems. The neighbor is like, oh, just, you know, get over it. People are rare. And that's when he tells her this whole thing about how there used to be a chapel in the woods. Or maybe he tells them during dinner or something. But anyways, he's the one that tells them that that place used to be a chapel occupied by hippies or something. And Tim is like, oh, like a cult. And he's like, no, like they're just, you know, whatever, religious folk or something like that. Millie and Tim are still fighting. They sleep in separate bedrooms. The night comes. I guess when you're asleep, the thing that they drank or whatever, this like spirit, it possesses you sort of, but it's not in the possession way. Their body is literally magnetized to themselves. So there's this whole scene where they're like rolling down the freaking hallway. He's like this, she's like this, and they're just trying to connect. And when their hands finally touch, they literally like merge together. Like literally like, it's like one hand goes into the other. And then Tim remembers that he has Valium, which is a muscle relaxant. They literally eat so many, so many pills. He decides to snort it. Nick was like, in the theaters, my husband was like, oh, it's not gonna metastasize, whatever, metabolize, whatever, you have to eat it. Anyways, nerd alert. But they snort a bunch and they get a little too high. The next morning comes. Tim is the second one to wake up, tied to a chair, still connected to Millie. Millie has this wonderful idea of taking a seesaw to unsaw them, which works because of the muscle relaxants. They sit separate for a while. Then they realize that this thing, whatever is happening to them, is going to continue happening after the drugs wear off. So Millie is like, we got to go to the hospital. But wait, I forgot my keys at the neighbor's house when I visited him to complain about you. Oops. So Millie goes to the neighbor. Tim stays at the house, but he runs off to go get answers from the cave. I don't know why people do that. I feel like if something like that happened to me, that would be like the last place I would go to, but whatever. Anyways, she goes to this creepy neighbor's house. Nobody's home. She's looking for the key. She's like, hey, I gotta go. He's not answering. Weird TV screen. It's his wedding with his husband. He's gay, by the way. Because at first it's like this whole thing about him hitting on her or something, but he's gay. It's him and his husband. And they are at the cult thing. And the reason why we know that is because there's those weird symbols of the sun from Tangled and weird bells. And he literally has that weird bell on his front porch that's used as like a ring bell. There's this video of his wedding. And they go into the cave. And they drink the water. And they cut themselves and they mix their blood. And then they freaking merge. And Allie's like, or Millie's like, what the hell? I keep getting her name wrong. But she's like, what the hell? And he's literally sitting right behind her, jump scare. And he's like, oh, you have to do it. There's an easier way. Like, don't go against it or else it's not going to be good. So he cuts her. She's like running down the street, freaking bleeding out of her arm. Tim is in the cave getting attacked by this other couple that also merged, but they merged wrong because one of them died halfway or killed themselves. So they're like merged but not fully merged, because a full merge is like one and one together, different person type of merge. But this thing was like a freaking weird looking creature, which was also, you could tell that it was like practical effects instead of CGI, which I really appreciate. Somehow Tim gets out of the cave. The poor creature is like, help me, help me. He just dips the frick out. He's like, screw you. He gets close to Allie, Millie, but not too close. They're still apart, right? And then he proposes to her. He's like, I want to spend the rest of my life. Bro, a little too late, but whatever. Her blood that's dripping out of her arm is like going on him, and they slowly start to merge. And he also tries to kill himself to stop it, but she ends up dying first because of her blood loss. And then she wakes up. And she wakes up because our Timmy boy decided to put his arm on her arm and merge them together. And then they play Spice Girls and they dance together naked and merge fully, completely into one. And then the girl's parents come home and they open the door. I'm saying they in a non-offensive way. It's because literally a man and a woman merged together, and it was like an androgynous looking person that opened the door. That's clearly Millie and Tim merged. I don't know. This movie was definitely interesting. Like, it wasn't not interesting by any means, but I truly thought that it was gonna be more exciting. I do appreciate how the previews didn't really give us anything except the fact that they merge, because it's literally called together. So I thought that was kind of cool. I do kind of wish there was more of an explanation as to how it works and why the well is underground and why it looks like a freaking, I don't know, it literally looks like a living organism inside the cave that they go to. It's really weird. If I had to rate the movie, I'd probably rate it a 7 out of 10. It did have like pretty cool couple jokes, but most of it was just like them fighting, which I didn't really know that was gonna be like half the movie. I didn't expect it to be so, not, what's like an opposite of rom-com? A rom-drama? I don't know. I really didn't expect it to be like that. But it was definitely cool. It was definitely interesting. It was definitely something I've never seen before. I would recommend other people to watch it. Maybe not in theaters. I don't know if I would spend my money on this again. I've seen that this movie got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't believe that. I don't know who rated this 100%. It's definitely unique, but I feel like it's missing something. Like it's missing more of like a drive. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. I kind of wish it was like two couples at the same time that this was happening to, and one ended up bad and the other one fully merged. Or something. Like it's just, the story was missing something. There was also not enough atmosphere, I feel like. I feel like it could have had more of like a vibe to it. Instead, it was just like a movie. 2025 movie. That was the vibe. I fully just like didn't even say what I wanted to say about the movie. First of all, one of the craziest scenes was when they were having sex and they got stuck together. I thought that was freaking insane because we got like a shot of that. Secondly, when they're merging together at the very, very end, their eyes touch, and I think that was such a cool like little addition to the visual effect. And then I think that was like the coolest scenes of the movie. And then what do I think the movie's about? I don't know, toxic relationships or happy love, happy endings, because the ending is kind of happy. How we shouldn't drown each other out and just merge without becoming the other person, but becoming something else together. Um, I don't know. Also, that window was totally, I forgot to close it, but whatever. I think that's pretty much it. If I have something else, a voiceovers, it's gonna be. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my rant. I'm sorry I haven't been posting as much. I truly don't watch movies that often anymore. But maybe I'll try to keep up. I hope you like this video, and if you like it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I did an okay job explaining the movie, and if not, I'm sorry. I'll try better next time, I guess. This was fun. I miss talking to you. I'll see you in the next one.